The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Okay, Trevor, I'm not a liar. I'm not a phony, and I'm not insecure, okay? The Oilers live rent-free in this mind of mine, okay? It is what it is. Speaking of rent, it's due in 2 weeks. Hey, speaking of... What?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A happy hump day, boing, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks Raider currently with a Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into this episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, do us a solid. Make sure you like, subscribe, maybe even leave a review on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, we ain't here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a three-week free trial of the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Yeah, Kyle, I know you and I are excited about NFL coming back, but we're also even more excited about hockey coming back a little bit further away, but a little bit more exciting. And I think one of the most exciting things heading into the 2024-25 season is this rivalry between the Canucks and Oilers. Like you said off the jump, they're living rent-free in your mind. They're living rent-free in my mind because that's sports, baby. Us as Canuck fans, we want that revenge. And will we get it in 2024-2025? Yep. I think so. I think these two teams are on a crash course to meet again in the playoffs. But let's take a step back further than that. You know, we've kind of talked about this throughout the offseason, but now that the dust is settled, the Canucks have traded Podkolzin into Edmonton. Edmonton's lost Holloway and Broberg. They've moved out Ceci. They've brought in Emerson. All these changes have happened. Let's take another look at about how these two teams stack up. Before we get into that, how you doing, buddy? You're heading out of town tonight, tomorrow. You DJing a show tonight. A lot going on in the life of Kyle Bhawan.
Yeah, man. Los Idiotas, right? Hosting that show tonight. Shout out B-Side Radio. It's going to be a fun time. The event is also called that Wednesday before Cancun because, yeah, tomorrow's Thursday and I'm going to Cancun and I haven't been on vacation in 5 years. That being said, I'm going to miss doing this every day with the people. Not going to lie, because I'm addicted to hockey. You said it off the top, right? It's not that long ago where, September was, on the horizon and all I was thinking about was the Green Bay Packers. But since the Canucks started winning games again, I feel very childlike, right? My inner child is being tapped into and hockey season is back. It's August 21st, but look outside, Vancouver. What does it look like? It looks like September. And if hockey's back, that means the assumption and the guesses and the estimating, that's all back too. And as Trevor alluded to again earlier, we're on a crash course, man. We're on a crash course with the Edmonton Oilers, and I want the Oilers. They're living rent-free in my mind, and I want revenge. I'm petty. Let's murder the Oilers. What? I said it. I want that to happen. If Draisaitl is not signed by the time the playoffs roll around and we play the Oilers again, I want to ruin them. I want to end it. And you can kind of see the writing on the wall, okay? Like, let's say, again, Draisaitl not signed. We eliminate them. Draisaitl leaves. McDavid leaves. Oh, like, McDavid and Draisaitl are like, what? You guys let Holloway leave for Podkolzin? You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Oh, you guys traded McLeod for you get what I'm saying? All these things. It could happen. And I would love to be, again, the person with the knife. I mean, cheering for the team with the bazooka. Anyways, the Canucks Oilers made a lot of changes this offseason as well. And we're going to go through all of them. And I feel as if some Canucks fans may be surprised with where my mind is at when it comes to who had the better offseason. Because based on what happened to the Oilers in the offer sheets, I think Canucks fans are celebrating. And I'm kind of like, hold your horses.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there, right? And because, Broberg, barely played with the Oilers last season. Holloway, I think, had some good moments. I mean, actually, I was debating about this with an Oilers fan. And I asked him, like, basically when I was on vacation, I was in the same house as an Oilers fan. He broke this news to me when it came out. And I asked, like, who would you rather keep? And he said Broberg. And to me, it kind of stunned me because, other than that 10-game run in the Cup Finals, like Broberg had barely played for them. When I'd see Broberg, he looked lost out there. Whereas Holloway, like, sure, he's not a superstar, but he's got size, he's got speed, he's got some hands, like he's got a lot of things you like, and he's a young buck too,
bro.
So again, these losses aren't the end of the world for them. Still a damn good hockey team, but here's kind of the main thing I want to look at with Edmonton and Vancouver, and let's start at the forwards. The Vancouver Canucks, they bring in Jake DeBrusk, but they lose Elias Lindholm. So you're looking at a Canucks forward group that, although they've improved the depth, right? You got Heinen, you got Sherwood, you got Daniel Sprong, okay? You got some more bodies in there. But in terms of the elite or top 6 talent at forward, you basically are at a wash, right? You lose Lindholm, you bring in DeBrusk, right? I think so. And Edmonton, you bring in Skinner and Arvidsson, and you don't really lose anyone, right? You lose Warren Fogle, I guess, but he's a bottom.
Holloway, McLeod, Fogle, they lost those guys.
But we're talking about bottom 6 forwards, right? In terms of guys who could be in the top 6, and you can debate about whether Arvidsson and Skinner are top 6 guys. I think Skinner not a great season last year. Arvidsson almost a point a game, but only played 18 games. So there's some risk with those guys. But man, oh man, in terms of the forward additions, is it hard? Like, I'm kind of giving the W to Edmonton right now, to be honest with you.
Whoa. Okay. There you go. I thought this episode was going to surprise people, okay? Because I feel as if you and I are on similar boats where we are definitely giving the Oilers, the team that beat us, the benefit of the doubt. And it's not because we don't love the Canucks. It's just it's preparing, It's not getting too comfortable. This is the team that came back from 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals to almost win the Stanley Cup. This is the same team, the same core that also started off the regular season so horrid, and they came back. Like, they got a strong will. They know how to bounce back. You cannot doubt these guys, and you can't doubt them even more so just because they lost some bottom 6 players. I'm sorry. I know you need depth to win in the playoffs, and Fogle, McLeod, and Holloway, good pieces, strong pieces, but replaceable, sure, and replaceable from within that organization, hell yeah, because what if Yarncroke, or how do you say his name? The janitor, what if that dude, and what if Connor Brown, they step it up in the regular season like they did in the playoffs? Those 2 players played better than the Holloways and the McLeods and the Fogles. You know what I'm saying? So they can still very much do it. And you brought up the point, they lost those guys, and we lost Lindholm, who was the most annoying player the Oilers had to play against in that 7-game series, according to Frank Saravelli and some of the Oilers players. It was Elias Lindholm, and we don't have that guy anymore, and he's a big piece. It's the truth. And you want to talk about losing Broberg, who, again, I was talking to my cousin who's a big Oilers fan. He don't give a beep that Broberg left. He really don't. Like, it hurt him a bit because just like Podkolzin, you don't like letting go of like that first-round pedigree because you just take the L. It's like, oh, that was a waste. That happened. But he didn't want him back. And yeah, they lost Broberg, but we lost Zadorov. We lost Zadorov, and we replaced him with Forbert, Desharnais, and more Tyler Myers. So this is going to be tough, man. Like the Oilers versus Canucks, like I just based on recency bias and who the Canucks are at the moment, especially with the whole Thatcher Demko thing too, the Oilers are on paper and in theory the superior team. And for us to get over that hump, it's going to take a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to take a lot necessarily. I think I agree with you. I think the Oilers are the better team. And maybe we'll kind of dive into that more on the other side because I think
I didn't say better. I said on paper, bro. Come on, bro. Like, I'm just looking at I'm not celebrating that they lost like Holloway. Like, oh, look at that. We did it. We're going to like this team's never getting back to the cup. Dude. They still a good team.
Yeah, I think these 2 teams are very, very close overall. And there's a question about the defense I want to ask you specifically on the other side. But, again, when I look at the offseason moves, I think another one I want to bring up is the move to get Matthew Savoy, which kind of went under the radar. To me, it was a surprising move, right? You trade Ryan McLeod, who's been a good third-line center for them. But you get a guy in Matthew Savoy who was, a top 10 pick not that long ago, 9th overall in 2022. Smaller guy, but he had 47 points in 23 games for the Moose Jaw Warriors in the WHL this season. He's basically at 2 points per game in the WHL. And you got a guy here who could potentially be a top 6 forward, maybe even a first line forward down the road. And you give up a guy. It was just an interesting move for a team in a win now mode to do that. I know part of it was cap related, but that was another interesting move that again probably won't affect the match between these 2 teams this season. But again, interesting for a team that is trying to win a cup for them to trade for a top 10 prospect. You just don't see that happen very often.
No, you don't. And I'm not going to say McLeod is like the best of players, but you could make the argument that, is somewhat of a core piece of that depth department of that team. And, as much credit as I'm giving the Oilers, losing like 3 guys in the bottom 6, for a team that just made the finals, that is pretty significant. It is. And I'm curious to see how that team not does in the regular season, but how much that affects them in the playoffs. If, let's say, they don't use their draft capital that they've gained well, like if Bowman, let's say, hasn't really been paying attention to the NHL closely in his scouting department and whatnot, and he's making these trades with these extra 3rd round picks and the 2nd round picks that he got from St. Louis and whatnot, and he brings in guys to replace them, and they just don't work out. Because again, at spurts, Holloway did things. At spurts, McLeod did things. At spurts, Fogle did things. They all did things in the bottom 6, and it's not like, in theory, we can say it's easy for them to replace them, but to get similar impact during a playoff run, bro, that's like, if I'm an Oilers fan, I understand why there'd be like some concern, understanding that, dude, like nailing 3 replacements down there to do all the gritty work in the playoffs is not simple. Just because you got McDavid and Draisaitl and Victor Arvidsson.
Yeah. I think as we get to the other side, Kyle, there's a couple things I want to do. I kind of want to look at the projected lineups for these rosters, and let's answer the question. Like, you talk about them on paper being better, but is that actually the case? Like, let's kind of dive into that a bit more. And the other big thing I want to touch on too is age. Okay. There's a stat today that the Oilers are the oldest team in the NHL. Is that going to be a detriment to them next season? Does that actually matter? And where do the Canucks rank in that category? That's all coming up on the other side here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. After we shout out our friends over at Indeed. Man, oh man, Kyle, you mentioned it, okay? I keep saying in these Indeed ad reads that, who's looking for jobs this beach season, the bikinis, the Speedos, all that stuff. But today here on the West Coast, the best coast, it feels like September, okay? The clouds are in the sky, and maybe, just maybe, it's time to put away those Speedos and bikinis for the year and start looking for a job. And if you're an employer, you could also be using Indeed as well, okay? Because if you need to hire or find a job, you need Indeed. The Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data. And they have a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch that busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed, they don't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. The number one thing I love about Indeed is that they're fast, baby. Man, they're faster than Kyle when he's slamming back one margarita and getting buzzed out of his tree, man. Come on, let's go. Indeed, They got it. Indeed, they leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences daily, and they have a matching engine that is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of the show, you will get a $75 sponsored job credit. What? To get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
People, we back doing this, and that's sizing up the Edmonton Oilers and your Vancouver Canucks for what is going to be a hell of a playoff series in 8 months, 9 months? I'm doing the math, and I'm already there. And again, Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want the best version of the Oilers when we play them again. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm a prideful dude, and I don't want excuses, man. If we beat the Oilers and people at Edmonton are like, yeah, but we didn't have Dylan Holloway, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, bro. Hey, speaking of which, before we go into the defensemen and the lineups, everyone that's listening to this or watching this, one love to the YouTube chat. We're going to get to all these comments. People, again, so enthusiastic about this rivalry. Beggsy, did you see Dylan Holloway talk to the media? Bro, you got to do it. That is the saddest millionaire I've ever seen in my life, because he did not think Edmonton wasn't going to match. He definitely got word from his agent that, if you sign this, You're going to be making this money in Edmonton, okay? For real. Just do it. This is the way you can get away with not having to agree to like a 1 year, $1 million deal, which apparently was kind of like in the ballpark of what the Oilers were offering guys like Holloway and Broberg. He signs a $2 million deal, whatever, and he thinks he's going to stay in Edmonton. St. Louis gets him. Edmonton doesn't match. He has to do media availability ASAP. And bro, if you just look at the guy's eyes, again, he is the saddest millionaire I've ever seen in my life. No, it's the truth. He just came back of Connor McDavid's wedding. Like, you know, like he's with the boys. Like they just went through a run. Zach Hyman's crying in the middle of the dressing room. Like that footage just leaked out. Like I want everyone to come back. We got something special here. And he got a little greedy. He wants to make that extra money. And now he's not with his bros. And it's hurt. It hurts when you get separated from your family, man. I'm about to go to Mexico. I'm going to miss my girlfriend. It's the same ish.
Yeah, that's why I had to get drunk off of one margarita with your girl last night, eh?
Yeah.
No, that's I haven't seen it. That's fascinating, but never in my life have I met or seen someone that's sad to leave the Oilers. But jokes aside, I get it, right? It's hard to leave the bros, especially after you've just been partying it up all weekend as well. Jack Maloney in the comments saying maybe Dylan Holloway just hates the media. Maybe he just hates himself for taking that extra dough, man. Who knows? Let's touch on this, Kyle, before we get into the lineups a bit more. The Oilers, there's a stat out there that the Oilers are not only the oldest team in the NHL next season, but the only team that has an average age of over 30 years old. Is that something that Edmonton should be concerned about next season, or is that just noise?
It's noise, man. It's noise. You know what they should have been concerned about? Going down 3-0 to Florida. They should have been concerned about going down 3-2 to Vancouver after Vancouver played their best game in the playoffs in Game 5 of the second round. They should have been concerned when they had to fire the coach after they started the season 0-26-1. You know what I'm saying? In the immediate, based on who's at the top of their lineup, McDavid, Draisaitl, and you also got to throw in Ekholm and Bouchard into that because of their playoff performances. In the immediate, like I'm talking the next 12 months, I'll even stretch that to the next 24 months if Draisaitl signs. It's not that much of a concern. That being said, they got to, like, I'd be more concerned about the fact that you lost all these guys. And then the year after this year, you have to have new contracts on your books signed to guys like Draisaitl and Bouchard. Like that's it. That's, you want to talk about a lack of depth right now for the Oilers. If you want to use those terms and that type of energy, bro, talk to me next August when we look at that roster.
Yeah, I think in Edmonton right now, and this, again, it's been an Edmonton heavy show, but it is the Canucks' #1 rival right now in the present. There's an argument that this might be their last chance of winning the Stanley Cup. Like that may be a bit dramatic. Edmonton fans don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it, but think about it, right? Like you start signing Draisaitl and Bouchard to, deals that are paying them in the, the 10-figure range. The 11-figure range. That's crazy, man. Like you're gonna be the next Toronto Maple Leafs, right? All of a sudden you're gonna have Draisaitl, Bouchard, McDavid like eating up like half your cap, like 3 to 4 guys. So yeah, maybe it's a do or die season for the Edmonton Oilers, but again, this bodes well for the Canucks moving forward. And I've talked about it before. Every dayers know I see a 3-year window for the Canucks, and a lot of it is contract based, right? That's just the world we're living in. PD's making a lot of money, like we all know that. But JT Miller's on a great contract. Thatcher Demko on a great contract. Quinn Hughes on a great contract. One more year, Brock Besser on a pretty good contract. So it's like there's a lot of reasons for optimism in Vancouver. It doesn't really feel like it's their last kick at the can. It feels like they're just getting started. But in Edmonton, I don't know, man. This, maybe a bit dramatic, but it could be their last kick at the can here.
I hope so, and I hope we end them. The opportunity is still there to end them without them getting a Stanley Cup. That is the dream of my sporting life right now. I don't give a beep. This team lives rent-free in my head, like I said off the top. I hate them. I'm petty. And I want to still destroy the Oilers. Because based on, again, going from Gretzky to McDavid within 30 years, and then also, if you want to throw in the fact that they've completely ignored, and not that like it's illegal to not ignore these things, but they completely ignored any sort of like societal understanding when it comes to like bringing in good people into your organization. Like they just don't give a beep, right? Like let's do whatever it takes to win. Boom, bam, sign them. Boom, bam, get them in the building. Boom, bam. Based on all that, and if they lose out on Draisaitl and McDavid, like I could see that team have like another like 20-year curse, 30-year curse, something dangerous happening. Okay, for real, for that organization, and it would be again if the what's the opposite of an exorcism? Like if we actually put the exorcism on them, like the curse spell or whatever, if we could be the one that casted that in April or May of 2025. Now let's go into the lineup, okay? Let's go through these lineups really quick. The forward group, the defenseman, Trevor Beggs. I don't know if you have like Daily Faceoff in front of you or any of these websites, or just you have these predictions in your mind. Go on a spiel. Let me know about how these lineups look like when it comes to, again, the two biggest rivals in the Western Conference.
Yeah, so I do have Daily Faceoff in front of me. I'm gonna toss around a little bit because I think some of these, like they have Vasily Podkolzin on the third line in Edmonton. I'm not going there. But in Edmonton, you got Nuge, McDavid, Hyman top line, Skinner, Draisaitl, Arvidsson second line. I'm gonna go Janmark, Henrique, and Brown third line, and fourth line would be Podkolzin, Derek Ryan, Corey Perry. That's not including Evander Kane, who's expected he will not start the season in Edmonton.
Yeah.
The Canucks forwards, I look at them. Obviously you got. Let's go with Miller, Besser, and DeBrus. Let's go Huglander, Pettersson, Sprong, Joshua, Bluger, Garland, and Heinen, Suter, Sherwood. Again, it's kind of a similar story to last season. Obviously, the Oilers have the stars at the top. I think the Oilers did well to improve their depth, but I just kind of like the Canucks better, like lines 1 through 4. Am I being biased there?
No, you're not being biased because, again, 15 minutes ago, I'm disagreeing with that because I'm giving a lot of benefit of the doubt to the team that beat us. And then you just read me the lines, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, yeah, that's a lot of depth. That's one thing. Like, the depth is cool, and I like our bottom six, even though Brown and Henrique and the janitor did their thing in the playoffs. I still kind of like our bottom six a bit more. But here's the kicker, and it's the obvious, and not to rag on the guy even more than we've kind of done all summer, even though we've also had his back more than any other network, okay? If, again, Elias Pettersson was, I don't know, like 87 overall instead of being like 78 overall in that second round series, again, if Pettersson didn't even reach his potential, just played a little bit better, we're beating the Oilers. So when you list out that lineup, it's hard for me not to daydream about that lineup at its all-time best if we're going to assume that Draisaitl and McDavid they're at their best, considering all the things that are on the line for that organization. There's a lot on the line for Pettersson too, and if he performs at an elite number one center rate, which he has to prove, not has to prove, but has to perform at, and that you tag team that with JT Miller, and then you got the Norris Trophy winner, and then Demko, bro, the Canucks, I'll say it again, and I haven't said this in a while, the Canucks are stacked, yo. They're stacked if Pettersson wakes up.
Yeah, they are stacked, and a lot of it depends on Pettersson, but the Oilers are also stacked too. Like, I want to be a biased Canuck fan, but gun to my head, I think I'm probably taking the Oilers forward group by like a smidge, by a hair. But these two are damn close, and like I said, I can't wait for the Canucks to potentially spoil the Oilers' last dance in 2025. Kyle, let's go touch on the defense and maybe very quickly the goaltending. Get to a couple comments on the other side of wrap up the show. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. After we shout out our friends over at FanDuel. All right, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel here on Locked On Canucks because they are America's #1 sportsbook. Well, today we got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. What a deal, baby. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment you can cancel anytime. There you go. Now Kyle can watch his Green Bay Packers, who last time I checked have the 11th best odds of winning the Super Bowl next season, man. Not bad. Okay, not bad. Whereas my Seahawks have the, what is that, Matt? The 22nd best odds of winning the Super Bowl. Ooh, ouch. That one hurts, baby. No matter what you're doing, again, go get that free trial, baby. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sportsbook.
Boom, bam. Shout out to FanDuel. People, we back doing this, and that's comparing the Oilers and the Canucks. Even though comparison is a thief of joy, it's also the pride and joy of sports commentary across the board. For real, this is what I love doing. Kyle Bhawan, Trevor Beggs. Speaking of doing things that you love. I love doing this. Okay. Locked on Canucks at the Don't Doze Art Lab, giving you that West Coast bias on the daily. As I stated off the top, I'm going to Mexico tomorrow. I'm going to miss doing this for the next week. And as Trevor alluded to many times, I'm a lightweight. Man. I don't practice drinking anymore. Okay. I don't practice drinking recreationally anymore. I stopped doing that like 6 years ago. And it's turned me into a lightweight. I got drunk off of half a margarita, a 6-ounce margarita, but half of it. And I'm a little scared, man. You got any advice? What should I do here? Going on a all-inclusive or exclusive resort, however you say it. Like, how do I survive this 7-day trip in Mexico?
Oh, this is the boring adult answer, but I think you got to do a few things. You gotta mix waters in between the drinks, man. Like, don't be a hero. Don't just be slamming back 10 drinks without water. Hydrate, man. Hydrate in between. Get some food in your body too, man. Like, it's an all-inclusive. You got free food. There's no excuse not to get some food in your belly as well. That way you can handle a bit more. And probably take a couple Advil before bed, man.
Whoa,
those are my 3 things of advice there.
Advil, yeah, okay. I've watched Painkillers on
Advil.
Netflix. Come on, bro. I'd rather just eat a banana, okay? Come on, man. All natural Hindu. That's me, okay? Anyway, so let's keep talking about the lineups. Now we're going to move on to the decor when it comes to these two teams. Before Trevor even goes into all the players, I'll just say it off the top. I'm so concerned with Tyler Myers being the number 4 defenseman, even though we have the Norris Trophy winner. I don't know, man. I may just have to give the edge to the Trevor, walk me off this effing bridge, okay?
Honestly, I think you're probably freaking out a bit too much. Like, it's easy to get caught in our Canucks bubble. I think here's the question you got to ask yourself, right? Both teams have 2 of the best pairs in hockey, right? You got Hughes and Hronek, you got Ekholm and Bouchard, right? Like, those are two amazing pairs, top-notch pairs. Of course, I'm picking Quinn Hughes, man. He's the best defenseman of the floor.
True.
So there's the edge there. And then you look at the bottom 4, and there's question marks for both teams, right? The Edmonton Oilers, Brett Kulak is now in a top 4 role on paper. Ty Emberson, good young player. But they also got Darnell Nurse, one of the most overpaid players in all of hockey, and Josh Brown, who grades out as one of the worst defenders in hockey. Troy Stetter's your number 7. In Vancouver, you got Carson Soucy. Yeah, he's now your number 3. That's scary. Tyler Myers playing too high up the lineup. Derek Forbort, Vinny Desharnais. I know what Jules says your number 7. Both of these teams have a ton of question marks on defense, right? That's why these teams, to me, are so even, right? I think Edmonton has a slight edge at forward, but not by much. I think Vancouver has a slight edge on defense, but not by much. And then the big factor to me is goaltending, right? Demko Shilovs is way, way, way stronger than Skinner and Picard there, without question. So that's me walking you off the ledge, is that, both teams have some major question marks on defense. And at least with our question marks, we're not paying one of those question marks over $9 million a year.
Buddy, $9 million, man. Yo, it's crazy how, again, it's not crazy that you can't restructure contracts with your players, because why would players want to take less, right? That's always like, why would players want to take less? Bro, I'm telling you right now, if I was Darnell Nurse, like, theoretically speaking, and I was that bad or not even close to $9 million worth of a player in the National Hockey League, where there's a hard salary cap, and you got McDavid and Draisaitl on your team, and you had the power to restructure your deal, I would do it. Because you don't need all those millions. You need wins. You need legacy. I would do it. I would. Now, Daryl saying this in the comments, and I think I agree with this too, because I've heard some Oilers podcasts talk about this. And again, the Oilers have rent free in my mind. I'm preparing for war, okay? I'm not petty. I'm not wasting my time. I'm listening to Oilers podcasts. I'm getting ready, okay? One of them was saying that Stetcher and Nurse, when playing together last year, did really well. Did really well in their short time together. So maybe Stetcher gets more time playing top 6 minutes on their decor than that guy named Brown, okay? Now, Trevor, we spent a lot of time with Carson Soucy. We spent a lot of time with Tyler Myers too, and all that concern. Let's move on to like 5, 6, and 7. First question. What's the pair? Who are the 5 and 6 more consistently, okay? We like the number 7 defenseman, he's playing like 20 games, okay? Let's be real. What's that pair look like? And what do you want from that pair? Like, I'm talking about minutes, stylistically. Like, what do you want these guys to do?
You talking about the Canucks, right? Or the Oilers?
I'm talking about the Canucks. Sorry. The Canucks.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like Derek Forbor's got to be your third pairing left shot defenseman, unless they find somebody else, right? Or unless Mark Freeman beats him out at training camp. And for me,
There's a
I've
chance
said it
of that.
before, like I'm a little bit worried about a pairing of Forbort and Desharnais, just because of the puck moving skills, right? And that's why, I think it's maybe almost a month ago now that I theorized that maybe we see Vinny D play with Quinn Hughes, because at least you get a big solid guy back there who doesn't have to maybe worry about moving the puck as much. Like, just get it to Hughes and forget it. I would probably like to see a Forbort Myers pairing on the third pair, maybe shelter them a bit at even strength. Myers can maybe bump up and play a bit to insulate Vinny D at some points. That's what I like to see from them. And I think for them, it's, win your matchups, play solid physical hockey at even strength and be great on the penalty kill. Like that's the recipe there, and don't have to do anything crazier than that.
I'm scared. I hate that whole be great on the penalty kill thing. It's so important, but I don't know, man. You have to do more as a defenseman on a Stanley Cup contending team. You know what I'm saying? Like, your number one attribute can be blocking shots on the penalty kill, but your number two attribute can't be so far down the list. That's not go play for Utah if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? I want to ask you this too, okay? And again, we have to get out of here pretty quick. And Trevor, I don't know if you want to line up some comments so we give the people what they deserve. The people make us, okay? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us a lot. Your support means everything to us. But I wonder if there's a defenseman out there, and maybe we'll talk about this next week, or you will, that both these teams are targeting to help fix this issue, and if there's going to be a bit of a race to get that player.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be fascinating. And that is one of the topics I'm going to touch on probably when you're gone is the Canucks on the trade market. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Every day is no. The Canucks aren't done yet. They're going to target a defenseman. I'm building that list for you and you and you. That episode is going to be coming out soon. And surprise, surprise, the Edmonton Oilers will probably be chasing a similar defenseman as well. But I do want to bring up a couple comments here. Let's go to Anthemous, one of the best commenters on the program. Shout out to all you commenting. He says, Demko tweeted out when the Canucks re-signed Myers, best day of my life. So, you know what? We definitely poo-poo on Myers quite a bit. I know we've also apologized to him after the great season he had last year. So a wave of emotions with Tyler Myers, but he's beloved in that dressing room, right? And you can kind of see why, from being in that dressing room a little bit, he's a great guy to talk to, willing to talk to anyone. Just seems like a genuinely good dude, and puts it all on the line on the ice. I mean, he's chaotic and makes mistakes, but he plays hard for his teammates, right? So you can see why he's beloved in that dressing room.
If you look at the other end of it, right? You think about Stan Bowman and Jackson and what they've done with the Oilers this offseason, right? They got rid of the biggest team guy apparently in Cody Ceci, and they did so for a defenseman who has good micro stats and looks good on the fancy charts, but it's still a 50-50 if he's going to be quote unquote as efficient as Cody Ceci, and they were willing to again get rid of that locker room guy on top of McLeod, Holloway, Fogle after this team went on a run. And maybe McDavid and Draisaitl, they're so competitive that they'll look past that, which they probably will. I'm 99.9% sure they will. But there's a chance that hurts the room a lot, man.
Potentially, man. Potentially. Let's get a couple more comments and we'll get out of here.
Yep.
Sethos Elkin wants to know, where are you going to Mexico, bud?
Cancun, man. Cancun. I'm going to Cancun. But who knows? The group of friends that I'm going with, we're journeymen. We're adventurers. I wouldn't be surprised, and hopefully my girlfriend's not watching this, but I wouldn't be surprised if in day 4 we kick it to Colombia.
You're that close, eh?
No, you never know. You just never know.
Living the dream. Let's give one more comment to Callum McKenzie saying that Vincent Desharnais, aka VD, a lot of VD talk in the comments today, is going to end Podkolzin's life. Wow, that's something else, man. Podkolzin already went through it, but is there any chance? How many games do you think Podkolzin plays for the Oilers next season? Give me an over or under.
Dude, man, that's a great question, and a part of me wants to, I was already mean to him, right? I already said it. Since he's a part of the Oilers and we didn't have that deep of a run with Podkolzin, it's you quote unquote suck. I don't want you to have success, because if you do have success and you play 70 games and you become effective, bro, and we realistically allowed you to replace Holloway, we did that with our rivals and gave them our top 10 pick, I will be devastated. That's Ilya Mikheyev bad. And there, there's bro, 2 weeks ago, we're talking about like best case with Podkolzin and maybe he can do it, blah, blah, blah. Like you got to take that and now visualize that in an Oilers jersey. So to answer your question, I hope he plays one game. I hope he sucks, man, because I can't handle that. I can't handle that, bro.
I'm gonna put the over under at 30 games for Podkolzin. I mean, to me, he's a spare forward on this team unless they face injury or he figures it out. But for me, I've said it this week already. I've been kind of doubting the guy since over a year plus. I'm putting it at 30 games. I think they give him a shot, but unless something drastically changes there, we could be seeing the end of Podkolzin in the NHL. Maybe all the best to Podkolzin, but we hope you suck in Edmonton. We know that you don't suck because you just tuned into another episode of Locked On Canucks, and we love you whether you're an everyday or an occasional listener, a first-time listener, a new subscriber, or you joined us on the live show on YouTube. But hey, it don't matter when or where you're listening. We just appreciate you for tuning in.
Whoa! I gotta cut you off. Look at this, Aaron Gray saying his wife is from El Salvador. Why are they talking about El Salvador in the comments? Okay. Oh, look at Aaron Gray, man. El Salvador. They got some beautiful women. Aaron Gray, not only the best GM in ball hockey history, Rico Suave Gray, okay? Because he's definitely watching the show with his lovely wife. Unreal, dude. And now we got a comment on the show, man. On the 14th biggest Canucks podcast, this guy just, you know how you fly a helicopter in the air and you like say something nice to your girl? This is the same ish, and this guy just did it here, man. Aaron Gray, aka Rico Suave, doing his thing. Hit the like button, subscribe, and one love to Aaron Gray's wife.
Let's go.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network,